Well, welcome again. I am Jen Danifo, Senior Program Officer at the Pennsylvania Humanities Council. I want to welcome you ladies to our virtual award ceremony for the Heart and Soul Hero Award or Community Award that we're presenting to you guys today. And we have Lindsay with us as well, who is the nominator. We're going to hear from her in a second. What I wanted to do was have you guys introduce yourselves. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about the award and actually show it to you virtually. I know this is very interesting given the situation we're in. Usually I'd hand you something and we'd take a picture, but I hope this is okay. So if you guys don't mind, Jennifer and Margee, if you guys could both introduce yourselves, and then I'll have Lindsay do the same.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Love. I am the Assistant Chief of Staff of Dickinson College.
I'm Margee Ensign, President of Dickinson College. Honored to be with you today. Thank you.
Great, so glad to have you guys. And Lindsay, as the nominator, do you want to introduce yourself and then talk a little bit about why you nominated both Jennifer and Margee and the network for this award?
Yes, I'm Lindsay Varner. I'm the Community Outreach Director at Cumberland County Historical Society. And I nominated the group and Margee and Jennifer because the network is just, it was absolutely phenomenal, and it was very much in the mindset of the Heart and Soul project that had taken place in the greater Carlisle area over the past few years. And the project went out into the community, and it's been doing amazing things across the greater Carlisle area. And seeing the group, I think for the first time, just really rally during COVID-19 and come together to talk about ways that we could work together and really start to solve problems was just incredible to see. And to see everybody just hit the ground running, and just the problem solving that was taking place from the very first meeting. It created some fantastic outcomes across the whole of the greater Carlisle area. And I think from committees being formed to trying to work to solve problems, from childcare to getting equipment to people doing essential services. It has been amazing to see it happen. And I felt like, I'm kind of a part of the meetings and I'm sitting on the sidelines because as a county historical organization, there's only so much we can do. But just seeing people step up and really help the community is really fantastic to get to see on a weekly basis.
That's awesome, Lindsay. Thank you for that. And I do have to say, ladies, you guys know that we have been doing, we've been working with Lindsay through the Greater Carlisle Project, which has been doing the Heart and Soul process for, since 2015, and have wrapped up, although it never ends, but wrapped up about a year ago. And we thought of this award not only because we were here, and so we still gather all those folks together on a community of practice call. Lindsay's a part of that. And in addition, we have some new communities. And, we started to hear from our communities all these amazing things. The work for Heart and Soul kind of stopped, but then we continued, but the work in the community didn't stop. And a lot of folks were pivoting towards, help and, really emergency relief. And that's where she started to talk about the network that you guys are a part of. And so we created the idea for the award is really highlighting some local heroes in the Heart and Soul spirit, which is really about inclusivity and focusing on what matters. And so you guys, when we looked at the application and the nomination form that Lindsay submitted about the network and both of your roles in it, which we'll hear about in a sec, we just, we thought that this was just such a slam dunk, and you guys are such a great example of, a Heart and Soul hero. So having said that, I'm going to present the award. We have I know this is a little strange, but
it's amazing.
So we are, Margee, we present this award to you in recognition for your remarkable service to the community during the coronavirus crisis. You will also receive this in the mail, which you can frame and display at your discretion. So,
thank you. I'm just so honored. Thank you.
And was there anything, I wanted to give you guys a little bit of space. Margee, I don't know if you wanted to say anything about the award and the network that you guys are, leading.
I'd love to. First of all, I think Lindsay got it right. It's a group of incredibly civic-oriented people who wanted to solve problems, who wanted to. This group started in my living room just about 3 years ago when I arrived, and began inviting civic leaders for discussions about how the college could be more deeply embedded in the community and how our students could do internships that were important to everyone. And it started growing, as Jen knows, who she's helped me coordinate this. And so right before we all went into quarantine, about 25 to 30 came to the house, and I think we sensed this was our last meeting in person. And it was quite moving. The emergency response coordinator came, and I think we knew that was it. We'd be working online. But up until that point, we had task forces looking at things like sustainable wages for people in the community, how we solved homelessness more, issues of food security. We had begun working very closely with the Cumberland, with the 2 school districts, to help them with a civic engagement course that'll be a new requirement. So we had all sorts of task forces and committees. But as soon as this began, and Lindsay, I think you heard it, the community came together in a way I've lived all over the world that I've never seen before. It didn't matter what political party you're in. It doesn't matter if you're a faith-based member, a nonprofit, a member of the business community. The whole focus was and continues to be, how do we make sure everyone in our community, particularly the most vulnerable, have access to food, to housing, to transportation. And I have to say, there hasn't been an issue where 3 or 4 or 15 people haven't said, I'll take that one on.
Yeah.
And it almost brings tears to my eyes when I think back to some of our meetings, and I was looking at some of my notes before this. As soon as someone emerged with a new problem or a new issue, a committee was formed. And within days, people were working on solving it. So I have said to other college presidents and people I work with around the country, if everybody could be like a community like Carlisle, we wouldn't be facing some of the problems we're facing, you know. And I'll end with this. At one meeting about 6 months ago, a new member of our community asked if he could come to the meetings at my house. And I said, of course, this is open to everyone. And at the end of the meeting, he said, you know, I have a new name for Carlisle. Carlisle is the city with a conscience. And I've kept that in my heart because I think he was right. I think we've really cared about making sure everyone has access to basic needs. It's kind of a fun memory is when Sophronia said they needed hand sanitizer, and Wheel and Flask, is that the correct name? Said,
Cook and Flask.
Okay, we're making sanitizer, but we're out of bottles. We all literally went through our rooms, went to drugstores, and I think they came up with hundreds of small bottles. People were dropping them off for Sophronia. And I thought, that's a community. No matter what the issue is, I think we've come together to make sure that we move forward as a community, and particularly our poor and most vulnerable members feel lifted up and supported as much as we can. So it's really just been an honor to be with this incredible Carlisle community at this moment. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Margee, for your leadership. And it's amazing. We'll have to get back to the fact that it started in your house, because I love that. I think that's such a heart and soul.
Breakfast meetings, you know, and everybody came right on time, right, Jen? And had a fast breakfast, and then we went right to work. And it's a great group of people.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for saying a little bit, and we'll talk a little bit. I have a couple other questions for you guys as well, but I wanted to present Jen her award as well. And Jen, you know, I'm presenting this award in recognition for the remarkable service that you have shown to your community during the coronavirus crisis. If you can, again, just remind folks what your role is, and if you wanted to say a little bit about the group and, you know, what you guys have been working on.
Sure, absolutely. So Jennifer Love again, and I work with President Ensign, and my role really working with the group is, you know, coordinating, you know, the details and getting the group together and keeping notes and keeping track of the mailing list and organizing the meeting times and setting up the Zoom calls, you know, and that's sort of my role in the group, just kind of making sure we have those times scheduled and making sure it fits within everybody's timeframes that they're available, And so I've been at the college, oh goodness, 17 years. So it's been a while. So I've been a member of the Carlisle community for quite some time. And it's just been really fascinating. I knew a lot of the organizations by name and certainly some of the individuals involved by name, but to see how they've come together and to see the dedication and the commitment to being involved and being a part of this group has just been, it's been truly inspiring. It really has.
It's amazing, amazing. And I will say that I have been the one that has to coordinate everybody's schedules. That is not an easy task.
It's an enormous task.
Lindsay knows too. She did it for Greater Carlisle, for the Greater Carlisle project. So thank you guys both for your amazing leadership here. And you know, we did want to recognize, and this is a little bit of the surprise, although probably won't be a surprise given, you know, both of your orientations. So we also wanted to present a special award to the network itself. And we were hoping that you guys would be willing to present this to them. Again, we'll mail all of these
Absolutely.
to you.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
And there's no way, I mean, you guys know, and you said it, both of you guys said it, Lindsay said it, that, you know, there's no way that there wouldn't be a network without the folks in the network, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
so if it would be okay, you know, if you guys could present this to them and let them know.
Would
And
love to at our next meeting, which is, it's Thursday morning, I think, right, Jen, this week? Yeah. Oh, would love to. Thank you.
I can send this via email so you guys can have it if you want to go to them. And then again, we will mail these out to you so you have them to frame or, you know, display however you want. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm so grateful. And it's really the network that deserves this because, you know, everybody's worked so hard to accomplish all of our goals. And as Jen said, the compassion and the kindness and the commitment to each other in our community is extraordinary. So on behalf of all of them, we were honored to receive this. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for your leadership. I really appreciate that.
Of course. Thank you, Margee and Jen, for bringing everybody together. And it's been fantastic to see how the group has evolved and the work that it's doing in the community.
And I think we'll be an even stronger community after this, you know. Our little Center for Civic Learning and Action that we formalized last year. And, you know, one of the things that happened is students were working remotely to help businesses get their business plans together and their online piece and, you know, things that were important to keep them going. But we ask students, even if we are remote and we don't know if we will be, do you want to continue this work? I think 86 said yes. Now we can't take all of them, right? But, you know, this next generation has to be ready to take over with all the challenges we're facing. So we've gained so much from this also. So thank you.
Yeah, of course. And, you know, I wanted to ask, so I had like just 3 questions before we close. I wanted to know, I mean, that kind of leads into one of my last questions, but I think we can start here. And is there anything that you guys have discovered about the community since doing this, or anything that has been solidified for you that maybe you already knew about the community, but, you know, just, you know, really came to the fore through doing this work? Just really curious if you've discovered anything or just really kind of reconnected with what this whole process has said about the community of Carlisle and the greater Carlisle area. And so any of you guys can answer.
I think I have 2 things. One, this really is a place, and this is Dickinson's motto, so it's been wonderful to be a part of it, where it's always about the common good. It's not about my particular individual needs. It's what do we need as a community? And I have to tell you, that's really quite rare. The second thing is whenever, and Lindsay knows this, and Jen, whenever a new issue arose, there was never a question of could we do it? It's how quickly can we move and who wants to be involved in it. And again, that level of cooperation and cohesion is really extraordinary. So those 2 things for me really stand out.
For me, one of the things that really stood out was, I think, the optimism of the community of how we were going to come out on the other side of the pandemic. And that, like you said, Margee, we'll come out a stronger community, I think, when we're all back together in person, hopefully soon. But the one thing that we did realize that we could do as a historical society is be capturing this history as it's happening. And I put kind of this open call out to everyone, and I sent it to the group, and I was receiving so many responses, and I was expecting it to be kind of, a little kind of negative and fearful, and people talking a lot about, how they're worried about what's going to happen at the end, but everything was so optimistic. We were receiving photos from businesses and people talking about nonprofits and the work that they were doing in the community. And it was just wonderful to see how people were coming together and how they were capturing and viewing these small moments of history across the community. And I love that. We have over 100 submissions so far, and they all tell this beautiful story of the community, of how we're starting to come together. And I love going through the story map and seeing the photos and the stories that everybody has sent in. And a lot of those have come from the network. They've been sharing some of the fantastic work that they've been doing.
It's wonderful.
Jen, what about you? Any thoughts on, what this has revealed about Carlisle and the community?
I think a couple of things, actually. One of them is the how interconnected the community has been. As the manager of the mailing list, so to speak. Oh, we need to add this person because they're connected in these ways, and this person would be really good on this topic, and that sort of thing. And the openness for that collaboration. Having the Borough Council and the Chamber and the Downtown Carlisle Association working together on programs for the local business. Just that openness to say, we're one together, and here are some ways to move forward together. So I think I knew that, but to really see how that would come out in this challenging time, to really see that working has been probably one of the most rewarding things too. Just to, I always knew that it was connected, but to really see that play out in this group has been really amazing.
And I'm really struck by how quickly, a lot of you guys have said, how quickly folks have been moving to action, and during this crisis that is, kind of needed. But also, I think what you guys are talking about too is, there isn't like silos. How sometimes in nonprofits or everybody's got their lane, right, kind of a thing. But what I'm hearing from you guys is that, also the nonprofits, or the nonprofits that are a part of this network, and the service organizations and all the different faith-based, I think there's a lot of different, you said 70 plus, is that right, are a part of this?
90, sometimes it's 90 on the call. It's huge.
Wow. So, and everybody, it seems like there is no, people have their particular, orientation, I guess, but it doesn't seem like there's a lot of cooperation. There isn't a lot of, that's not our thing, we can't do that. It seems like
totally the opposite. It's just, I think Lindsay said it at the beginning, it's how do we solve this problem? Yeah. And what's wonderful is you do have all these different actors, business and the political leaders and the faith-based and the nonprofits, and everyone brings a different solution and a different contribution. And there's never been anyone saying, well, that's, I don't do that. The level of cooperation and coordination with Jen's help is just, that's why we've been able to solve problems, is because people have brought whatever they can contribute to solve the problem.
And you guys talked a little bit about, the thing like with Hope Station and providing hand sanitizer. Are there other projects or things that come up that you'd want to highlight?
Yeah, there are multiple projects. The first one was, how do businesses get access to the CARES Act? What do small businesses do who haven't been able to get online and can't even do gift certificates? So there was a couple of classes at Dickinson that were online, but students volunteered to do some of those things. So that was early on. And then issues of food security. Bob Weed and everyone who's working on that issue, every week would say, we need this, we need somebody to, to either provide transportation or volunteer, and there was a response to that. And now there are some committees that have been formed. One is the Transportation Committee, because that's still a huge issue right now. What else, Jen? There's like 5 committees.
Yeah, there's several. One of which is really looking at childcare for the summer right now. As we start to reopen, perhaps, so that's a big committee and a lot of work for that group right now. One of the things that have come out of that is the United Way's Emergency Response Fund. So that was a part of the conversations as we were talking, nonprofits were having big costs coming up and needed support. And so we were able to, work with the leaders of the United Way in developing that fund. And that's helped a lot of groups in the community.
Yeah, that's been a really important, it's one thing to have the ideas and to have people power, but we needed money too. So that emerged, and you should talk to Lucy. She and Jesse Poe have done such an incredible job, and might be interesting to know where our money has gone that's been raised by United Way and the whole community, and who contributed to the fund, because again, that showed tremendous cooperation. Businesses and individuals and nonprofits themselves contributing. So I think that's really important. And one of our two most recent committees, one is the summer camps, childcare, and the other that's emerged is the addiction challenge. And people not able to get the help they needed. I was on a call this weekend with one of the faith-based leaders who's helping to coordinate that. So there really are no, as you said, no institutional lines here. Whoever felt they had time and were committed to the topic stepped forward and took on a new issue. So it's very exciting. It's nice to reflect on it. So I thank you for that, because I think we've all been so busy. Who has time to think about what's happening?
It's true. And I think it shows the interconnectedness of the work that we do. And Lindsay, I know you mentioned this, that there may be limitations to what the Historical Society can do, but at the same time, you guys are a part of that network, and even things like summer learning, right? You guys do a summer camp. So thinking through some of these issues for the folks and the families that you have typically served, I think it shows that it doesn't matter, what lane you're in, these things are all encompassing for a community. They affect everybody.
Yeah, and I think we've all started to realize that there are many things that we bring to the table that, like you had said, if we're solely thinking about our organization, we can sometimes miss what we can offer to other organizations. And I know I'm on the childcare and summer camp subcommittee, and the very first call we had, I was just absolutely impressed and overwhelmed with just the list that we had come up with of places who are willing to just donate space if we have to spread kids out across the community because they can't be in one big group. Right. Just the number of places that were offering their space up to use in order for us to have camps and childcare. And you realize you don't need to be doing the same things in the community. You could just offer a space. And it makes a huge difference to a childcare organization being able to give the services that are essential for the summer.
Yeah, and just, those are solutions, right, that sometimes we don't think about. So to think about the way in which this has asked us to work in different ways, I think is, one of the, small silver linings that has come out of, a challenging time for some communities. So my final question for you guys is, actually I have two. So Lindsay, I lied, I have two. Lindsay, I wanted to ask you to talk a little bit about how this connects to Heart and Soul, since you have been through the Heart and Soul process. And I know Dickinson was a huge part of that too. But if you could reflect a little bit on, the whole ethos of Heart and Soul and what it's really about, and how this connects, this whole idea of the Carlisle Community Action Network and, nominating heroes connects to the work that you guys had started with the Greater Carlisle Project.
Yeah, the Greater Carlisle Project was all about that idea of interconnectedness and bringing together organizations and people from across the Greater Carlisle region to really see how we can work together and create benefits for the community. And Heart and Soul was one way that the project was reaching out to community members to really find out what was needed in the community. And I think that this project really shows how the work that was laid out from Greater Carlisle Project and starting to bring people together, the conversations that were happening in the community, and it wasn't just Heart and Soul. There were many things that were starting to happen within the Greater Carlisle area that were bringing people together and breaking down some of these silos. And I have to say, Margee, you coming on to Dickinson College was absolutely one of those, starting those conversations in your living room over breakfast and just breaking down some of those barriers were a huge step to getting people talking. And the Heart and Soul is all about people talking to each other and making decisions based upon what the community really needs.
Mhm.
And I think we were set up going into this really prepared to be able to make a change and to jump right in. And I think that's why that first Zoom meeting that we all had together, it was a meeting of problem solving. And we were at that position to start moving forward because we had already been having so many conversations already. And so that is what Heart and Soul is about, is being able to come together and recognize that we are better off as a community working together rather than siloed trying to do it on our own.
Thank you. Thank you for that history. It's wonderful.
Yeah, that's a great connection. And so my last question for you guys is, so what do what's next? So I know that this was something that was formed, before the pandemic started. But has, very quickly adapted in order to really, help adjust to the needs of the community members. What's next, Margee? Like, are there plans for, I know you guys are in, still in recovery mode, but this is something that I'm assuming, I think correctly, that this is long lasting.
Oh, absolutely. I think we are still in crisis mode and will be for a while because this pandemic has hit poor communities harder. Yeah. So we have a lot of work to do. And I think about our task force going into this, working on a livable wage, a sustainable wage. That's more important now even than before we were in the pandemic. Issues of food security, the addiction issues. I'm particularly excited, going into this, we had really deepened our communities with the 2 school districts. And that's really important for all of us, I think, to make sure that high school students are getting an experience like our college students are. Yeah. Because I really believe we've got to be creating this next generation of civic-minded leaders who can solve problems and who can work in community like Lindsay described, where everybody has something to bring to the table. So I think our work there is even more important. Yeah. So once the fall begins, however it begins, I'm very excited to move forward with helping the 2 school districts with their course. And I think for Dickinson, the reason I came to Dickinson from Nigeria was really because of its history from the very beginning in civic engagement. Our founder said the goal of Dickinson is to educate engaged citizens for a new democracy. Well, that work never ends. And I think this is just another part of Dickinson's work in the community. And I hope for us, it will lead to even deeper work in this area. It certainly will have more connections for students as they want to work in the community. But I hope we also sit back as an institution and reflect on what did we learn and how does it change what we're doing and deepen our work. So, I'm very excited, but I will say we're not out of this yet.
Yeah.
We still have a lot of work to do and a lot of people whose lives have just been completely turned around, who we've got to make sure we can support and lift up and they can get back on their feet and get their works going again. So still lots of work to do.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Jen.
I agree that I think this is the deepened relationships will be something that are going to stay on in perpetuity, right? Like we have just really developed strong relationships, and I'm excited to see, post-crisis, the kinds of projects that this group will want to take on, knowing each other as well as they are, and seeing where there are cracks in the system, right? Where that this crisis has illuminated, transportation being one of those. We knew it a little bit beforehand, but access to strong transportation for individuals has really, deepened, and we know that. And so I think there will be a wide range of issues that this group will be tackling, post-crisis. Not sure we're all going to fit in Margee's living room anymore, so that'll be my challenge when we can group together again in the future, and I look forward to that challenge. But I think like you said, this group is going on for as long as it will. So
yeah, That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Yeah, and if you guys do fit in the living room or the kitchen, please take a picture because I would love this.
We'll have to open up that screen porch and let 20 people in there too. It'll be a fun party. You'll be invited, Jen.
Yes, and you know, I was up in Carlisle right before this all happened, Lindsay. It was about like 4 weeks before the stay-at-home order came down, and I had not been out there, believe it or not. We had another colleague that was working closely with Lindsay, and I had never gotten a chance to go out, but I went out, you know, right before, and it spent some time in Mount Holly Springs, Dillsburg as well, but downtown is just great. I went to that amazing coffee shop that's across the street from the hotel.
Denim.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And those are the kinds of businesses I know. I mean, I don't know what you guys are seeing, but those small businesses are the ones that are, you know, in trouble right now, you know, trying to figure out.
At least I was checking this morning because I'm working with the chamber to try to get a new grant for small businesses to, you know, and it's separate from the federal money. And I don't think any have announced they're going out of business yet. So that's encouraging.
Yes.
Right? That's optimistic. That's hopeful. Now we've got to make sure they can reemerge from this in a safe way, and all of us can be, you know, safe going to these small businesses. But it's good that there's a concern for them and what they stand for. So.
Yeah, and so I'll sneak in one last question. Are you guys seeing more of that local connection where people are really rallying around businesses and staying local and supporting local?
Well, we're just reopening. I mean, we just went to Yellow on Friday, and so I think that will happen. I think there's a new national consciousness about small businesses. I think that's one of the things that will emerge from this, is that people realize, you know, we need to support the businesses in our community, and the ones that have been able to stay open are the big box company, you know, stores. So I heard there was a lot of people out this weekend downtown wandering around. I didn't go myself, but I think as soon as it's safe, you'll see incredible support for them. And many, particularly the restaurants, many of them were able to stay open and do takeout like other places in the country. So I'm hoping we see a big resurgence for our businesses.
Yeah.
And there has been a strong outpouring for the local business community, including what Margee said earlier about helping them get online. I mean, many of them didn't, you know, have the ability to order, you know, items online or do curbside or even do gift certificates online. And so the students were able to help some of those businesses do that. And I know there were lots of community members that went online and got those gift certificates and them in those ways. So I see that a lot through social media, and you know, the chamber and the borough council and DCA have been really, you know, just putting words out there of who's available online, what are the resources, how to do it safely, you know, including the local farmers market that's been able to remain open during this time because they've, you know, been able to practice that and work together on, you know, keeping the distancing and how do you do a drive-through, you know, farmers market, and they figured it out. And so that's been a great contribution to the community.
Yeah, and all of our downtown businesses are talking to each other, which is incredible. And they're coordinating how they're reopening. And we have a shop on High Street that reopened today. And we're starting with curbside pickup until we get into it. And we decided to do that because a lot of the other businesses on that street are doing the same thing. And we want to try and have a very safe reopening. And I love that all of the business owners are talking to each other to ensure that that happens. So they're working together and the community is working with them. And so it's great to see everybody talking and rallying to really make sure that we open safely, but that we're also still supporting our downtown businesses.
Mm-hmm. I mean, even the borough offering free parking in front of businesses so you can do that, you know, pick up quick, you know, and
right.
It's been a really coordinated effort.
Yeah, I feel like, you know, so I'm in a small community in Philadelphia, or a small neighborhood in Philly. And, you know, I feel like folks are learning to fall in love with where they live again. I know that sounds strange. And again, I mean, there's been a lot of things that have not been great. You know, this has been a really devastating pandemic. You know, I'm not trying to you know, diminish that, but I think one of the, you know, just watching people walk around the neighborhood, right, and shopping local where they can, like in terms of takeout, and I can imagine the same thing happening in Carlisle's falling back in love with where you live and trying to, you know, really elevate, you know, why people live there in the first place, I think will be part of that recovery. There's much more there, of course, but that will be part of it. But yeah, so it's wonderful to hear from you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you so much for sharing, you know, your experiences. And we're really excited to present this award to you guys. Congratulations again.
Honor. Thank you. And thank you, Lindsay.
No, thank you guys for everything you do for the coordination. I mean, it's a lot of work to put together, and like you said, sometimes 90 people on the calls. So I thank you so much for coordinating all of this.
It's been fun. I've enjoyed it. Thank you.